I still got room.
That's what she said.
Very creative. I like irrational.
Like musical numbers, the game, hopscotch.
Yes.
The World Series of hopscotch.
When they grab the ball.
Major League Sports.
It is time to shut up. Welcome to this week's episode of The List Game. I am your host, Daniel French. This is a conversational improv game. Each of our panel members has a list of topics and or phrases that were drawn from the chicken hat. Their goal is to sneak those topics and phrases into the conversation with a tangent. Another member of the panel can call you out saying, that's on your list. If they're right, they get a point. If you bluffed or if they're just wrong, you get a point. The List Game is listener supported. Join the List Game community at www.patreon.com/listgame. To contact the List Game crew, email listgame@cox.net, C-O-X. Today's topic for the List Game is addiction. What are the many things we are addicted to? When does addiction start? How does it end? Who benefits and how? Is there a genetic connection? Any other questions you can think of? Anything you want to throw in? And don't forget to use your list. The floor is open!
We're addicted to fast food. Some of us. Sody pop.
Have another donut, Dean.
I actually
They're jelly
don't
filled.
like donuts.
You don't?
No.
What about Danishes?
They're too sweet.
How about that lovely kale
What about an apple skeever?
It's pretty good.
Oh, good.
Beignets. Cake.
I don't like cake.
Pies.
Pies I do like.
Cookies.
It depends on the cookie.
Brownies?
I like oatmeal raisin, but I don't like chocolate chip.
Snickerdoodles.
Snickerdoodles are okay.
Cannabis-infused brownies.
Are you saying there's some here? Or...
Actually, yes, that can be arranged.
So is this the list
That'd
game?
make for an
Asking me?
interesting episode of the List Game. Maybe one day, without telling us, Daniel should spike the usual donuts with cannabis. So halfway through the list, we're all really freaking high.
Cannabis history.
I like it.
Or maybe he could just spike them with PCP or something.
Oh my gosh.
That'll get interesting.
That'll get interesting.
So this game gets physical.
I think
You know,
we wouldn't want Sam here for that one.
You would need.
Or would we?
Whatever it is, you would want something where you wouldn't be like away from the mic, right? So PCP might lead to like being naked out on the street, and you wouldn't capture anything, right? Just be
Bluetooth
silence. Bluetooth.
Or we go to Twitch.
Mobile. We need to go mobile with this thing.
Just follow us in your car.
Going back a few episodes of the List Game, we talked about the mysteries of ancient civilizations and all that. And the subject of aliens starting our civilizations on the planet has come up more than once. And yes, when they did, they programmed into us this little algorithm to be addicted to things.
The back door.
And it's part of the whole experiment.
Yeah, I'm gonna just poo-poo on all that because I think that's a bunch of BS. I think personally that what it is simple. You know, human beings are complex. We're very complex creatures, and we have historically needed to. It was difficult to get food for a long time, right? We had to hunt. We had to gather. It was, we had to move because things would dry up, conditions would change. Whole civilizations were wiped out because of long droughts or different conditions. And we have evolved over time to have a certain reaction to food, have a certain reaction to things. And it is my supposition that a certain subset of people are simply born with a genetic anomaly such that they don't produce a certain chemical in a way such that when they take something like heroin or cocaine or whatever, it fills that need, right? And so the real serious addicts, the people who have real addiction conditions in their life, I think those folks really have something different in their brain than the rest of us. And they don't really feel like they belong or whole or complete until the first time they did that thing that they're totally addicted to. It could be sex, it could be chocolate, it could be gambling, it could be cocaine, it could be heroin. It doesn't really matter what the thing is. What matters is that thing fulfills the function of completing them in their brain for the first time in their life. And from that moment on, it's a struggle to get away from that thing and to have something else fulfill them that isn't something that's going to kill them.
It begins with the binky.
Yes.
It begins with the pacifier, the binky, and it moves from the binky to the rum-flavored binky. Actually, it begins with the thumb. Begins with the thumb, then it goes to the binky, then it goes to the rum-flavored binky, then the whiskey-flavored binky.
You're just talking about psychology, though, like oral fixations, anal fixations, those type of things.
Well, there is something to be said to the idea that possibly. Well, first off, I want to posit there's different kinds of addictions, right? I don't think all addiction is equal, right? There's, for instance, there's a certain kind of problem that some folks can have with alcohol, such that if they drink alcohol, they end up in blackout states, and these folks can't stop drinking alcohol, and if they just drink one glass of alcohol, they become a blackout. Like, that's just a given. And those specific folks have something going on, some sort of allergy, where the alcohol triggers the allergy, and the allergy is I just keep drinking until I can't stop.
Yeah, there's certainly a genetic factor to addiction.
Right.
We say that some people have addictive personalities. Although I think addiction affects almost everybody in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that goes back to just our makeup of having been hunter-gatherers, and when food became available, we needed to eat it. Like, that was a survival mechanism need. But nowadays, in this world, food is it's available everywhere. You can go anywhere and go through a drive-through and get big old juicy burger, and that was just not reality for the majority of our being. You know, the entire time we became conditioned for survival on this planet, this is the only time that this is a reality where you can just go get food anywhere at any time.
So you think that the fact that we have so much is the reason why we have so many addicts versus there's a theory going around by Gabor Mate. He believes that everyone has the same level of addiction. And the reason why nowadays in the Western world, that Western society, our society, where it's really important to strive and to make and to acquire, that it's that lack of nurturing early on, of loving one another, of noticing one another. Instead, when you're growing up, you're told to strive, to go for it, and you lose that connection with people. And maybe that's why there's more addicts these days, because when we get older, it's a strive. It's a very behavioral, of course, but drugs can fill that.
No
Sexual
doubt.
behavior can fill that.
No doubt.
So it's actually it's not just the fact that we have a lot, we actually have less in our familial.
So let me tell you a story. Part of the way that it became the predominant idea has culturally been that chemicals cause addiction, right? And so, like, cocaine causes addiction. How the idea came about was that they took rats and they put them in isolated cages, and they gave them cocaine water and regular water, and they drank the cocaine water until they died. And that was repeated over and over again, right? But then 20 years later, another scientist took that same idea but tweaked it and said, okay, well, what happens if we provide a place that is positive for the mice, right? And so they built a park where it had mazes and it had entertaining things for the mice to do and games, and they had families.
As defined by humans.
Right. Well, we provided as much, stimulation as possible, and then put the cocaine and regular water, and it turned out not a single rat died from the cocaine. They just weren't interested in it because they had a support, they had the love, they had all the stuff.
Bored.
They weren't bored. Therefore, the cocaine was just not a factor.
It's because addiction is all about reinforcement.
Right.
So
And-
if
yeah.
it does the pleasure center of your brain, so in which the cocaine might have provided one pleasure center,
Right.
the reinforcement of going out into the park to being able to be out was a reinforcer. So we substitute often one thing for another. That's why people get addicted to, like, exercise. That's why people get addicted to other things. So we really try to figure out in our own lives, okay, what is our pleasure center? What provides us the most pleasure? And things that are pleasurable, such as sex, such as food, we sometimes take to the extreme.
Exactly.
Right, like video games, especially nowadays, they're really based on a reward system. And
Right.
when you do good in the game, you get a reward, and that makes you happy. So people have become addicted to games like Destiny,
Yeah.
for one, is the big one.
Any of them.
Clash of
All
Clans
them.
is also like a huge one
Yeah.
that just
video
keeps
game
drawing
addiction.
people
World
towards
of
it.
Warcraft has
World of
actually
Warcraft,
made
yes.
people lose their jobs.
Yeah, Clash of Clans got some of my money.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, but when people are going through really stressful, hard times, like really, really stressful, hard times, then addiction becomes a much more real element. Take, for example, Vietnam. When guys 18, 19, 20-year-old were getting drafted and sent to Vietnam, put a gun in their hands and told to go shoot. All those kids in the front line, 95% of them were doing heroin.
Well, yeah, walking through the jungles of Vietnam gets
Getting
really,
shot at
yeah,
and
it gets
shooting
really
people
stressful.
and,
so
and
you
watching
gotta-
your friends die, right? And so 95% of them were doing heroin because it was either that or go crazy.
Oh, go crazy.
Which brings me to one of my other theories. In that instance, especially, how did they get all that heroin?
It was provided.
It was provided by the government, right?
It was
They were in the
provided by
middle
the
of it.
CIA.
Yeah,
man.
which brings about, I part of not so much who started it, but who benefits from it. I have the Illuminati theory. You know, the Illuminati is like, oh, this is how we're going to control the
I'm
world.
going to poo-poo on that one, too.
You're going to poo-poo on that one? Poo-poo on my Illuminati theory, man.
I think
'cause that's how
Rod's
they
a member of the
control world.
Illuminati, trying to throw us off their
How's
track.
Elvis Presley, Rob?
I don't think it's that complex. I think it's much simpler than that. I think it's just an oligarchy. I think there's just a handful of people that control everything, and it's
Yeah, money is to be made, power is to be had.
it's all very obvious and very above board. I don't think there's. I mean, if they're trying to be secretive about it, they're doing a horrible job of it.
'Cause everybody knows.
Because everybody knows. Everybody freaking knows. So how could it be a big ass secret if everybody knows?
But your war theory is correct, I believe. I mean, providing those things, because going back to the gambling part and the video game piece, is it fires up the same pleasure centers. If you do CT scans of kids who play video games, people who gamble, and people who do drugs,
Exactly.
including heroin, including taking those like pills to be having those things come in. All those things are directly related in CT scans and PET scans.
Back to the video game thing, sorry. It also gives you a sense of community. Back when Pokemon Go first came out, Pokemon fans were all over the place collecting Pokemon, walking around parks, finding each other, and this game became like addicting because you kind of had a sense of community, and you kind of like had people who understood you going around doing this, even though, you know, some people were stupid enough to walk in the middle of the road to find their Pokemon and stuff.
Addiction can be in any sector. Anything that anybody finds pleasurable can be something that can become an addictive thing.
And one tool is to celebrate it whenever possible. Celebrate the thing that you want them to be addicted to. As per se, the Red Bull Olympics thing where they make the vehicles that go across the water. It used to be much more famous than it is now, but it was the Big Tobacco Christmas Party, where many companies would get together, and it would be at somewhere like Madison Square Gardens, and it would just be drugs and tobacco and everything there. Well, like people were beating each other up in the
Pharmacy
middle
du jour.
And addiction comes in those other parts too, like TV. So we have a whole Cartoon Network full of shows. You know, you have the smaller cartoons, the Justice League, Japanese anime, those type of things where people you watch show after show. You have the Adult Swim, so you have all the shows on
I
there.
like Adult Swim.
Exactly. So you have all those things that are
You're an
catered to
addict.
us in just a small piece, because I know that, yeah, I might want to watch Looney Tunes, but you know, at the same time, I want to see something that's maybe more adult and adult content.
Well, one thing I got to say about addiction, not that I have been addicted, although I'd have to say exercise I've been addicted to, and work, and defining myself by my job, et cetera, and how socially incompetent I am as a result. But I have two relatives who, one just passed away 4 months ago. I know this is a comedy, so, but one of them just passed away 4 months ago.
Death is funny on this
Yeah,
show.
good, because
If you've
it's supposed to
listened.
be. I
Yes.
need to laugh about this. And what is interesting about addicts is they will lie in a way that, I don't know, they're convincing. They're convincing. When they say, for example, oh, I don't do this, I don't take that, it's amazing how truthful they sound, but they will...
Meanwhile, they have that powdered donor booger on the side of
Yeah,
their nose.
and it's amazing how just, especially someone you think is really close to you, and you just, they'll do whatever they want. And so...
And I think it is just a rewiring of the brain. Some folks are.
Although this was drugs, So
Oh, yeah.
my question is I guess would be, do the drugs take that little loose wire that we all maybe have? And if you're young taking it, which both of these people I know did start young, and again, I don't think pot is it. I don't think pot causes that loose wire in all of us to burn or whatever and disconnect and open it up. But I think that the drug could have caused an increase, just the increase in the potential of them getting more and more deeper into it.
I think it just happens to be that the drug met a specific need. It fulfilled a function in their brain that nothing else could fulfill. And that's the unfortunate thing about addiction at that level, because it doesn't have to be drugs. It could be just as easily sex, or it could be just as easily gambling, or it could be just as easily food.
And when you're going to lie about it and you want to hide it, the answer for all those is the same. Clean it with bleach.
And I think ultimately it comes down to endorphins, like the key
Serotonin.
Yeah. There's receptors in your brain. Your receptors in your brain for endorphins, and when your brain isn't wired correctly, you never get a full endorphin fulfillment the way a normal brain does. So all of us probably can't relate fully and completely to a real addict who just has a different wiring than we do, and they do not get pleasure the way we get pleasure from simple things. And the one thing that gives them the pleasure that is total and complete, that's the thing they're going to be addicted to till the moment they're dead. Unless something can do a total and complete rewiring of their brain. The handful of people that have managed to get out of that whole mess, the way they do it and the way it's happened is by a complete reorganization of values at the base level of their understanding and view of the world.
Well, look at what is it? I keep saying AA, but it's the Alcoholics Anonymous, because you end up believing in a Jesus, right? That's the
Higher power.
Replacement. And it's
what it comes down to is, in my opinion,
and it's
again,
and they're solidly like it's Jesus or nothing. It's like their addiction has become.
It's a higher power because the problem with addiction, and one of the things that happens with most addicts, is that they tend to be highly narcissistic, and that narcissism and ego drives the addiction, and the addiction feeds the ego. And the only way to have health and get away from that whole cycle is to break the ego, and the only way to break the ego is to have some amount of humility, and the only way to get humility when you think you're God is to allow something else that isn't you to be a higher power.
Well, again, and narcissism, real quick, I think we got to define narcissism, because it's not just some person saying, I am God. It's some person who's just so self-absorbed.
Yes.
They could even hate themselves.
And all of
so that's all. I want to make that point.
It's absolutely true. And I think it's universal that in most cases, all the addicts have some amount of narcissism going on.
But what you're bringing up is the need for what's called cognitive restructuring.
Yes.
So I've got to change how I think and what I think about in order to do that. And I have to do something beyond myself, such as a higher power, whatever I'm believing in.
That's it.
So therefore, I know it's beyond me.
Yeah.
But it can be restructured, even though the physical traits are still there for addiction, in which I still can get help and feel like I'm a person who can continue to live my life. Because there's plenty of people who live with addiction every day, in which they are able to manage, and it does go to the cliche like day by day.
Yeah, no doubt.
I have a friend that I believe Rod might know her too, but we won't mention her name, who did the whole AA thing. And one of the things I liked about her version of it, she kind of recreated it for herself, and still very successful. We're talking like years now she's been sober. But her higher power was Benjamin Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing from the Fantastic Four.
But it takes one of those.
Cool.
But it does. It takes one of those experiences like Moses in the burning bush, or coming to Jesus type moments. Those type of things where people are like, "Oh, I need to change my life."
Yeah.
Like I need to really change my life.
Which is why oftentimes psychiatrists and people who are in the business of helping addicts oftentimes talk about people needing to hit bottom.
Right.
Because you're not ready to accept or see or realize your reality until you actually hit bottom. Before that, you're usually in some denial state and in a state of, just making stories up about that the universe is out to get you and that it's not your fault. And it's not your decisions that are causing all of this. And when reality is, it is. And you don't see that until you actually hit bottom.
And you should actually see everything. Like one of the first clues that you're on your way to hitting bottom is you find yourself often cleaning things with bleach.
Is that on your list?
Yes, it is!
Nice job.
But wait a
I
minute.
kind of picked it up the first time, but I didn't want to say
Yeah, I
anything.
know. You got that twice.
Just never know with him though.
You never do. I took a chance.
He took a chance
Why
on
did
it.
you try it twice? You did the bleach thing
He already did it
earlier.
once.
I know.
Part of the
You kind of
the-
introduced it.
No,
Is that
part
what
of
you
the
did?
joy of the list game of really earning your point is you get
Doing-
people to talk about your
yeah,
point.
yeah.
If you just
Okay.
said it and snuck it in, that's a weak point,
Oh my
man.
goodness. That's
You
gonna
gotta
be me
bring it up
too.
more than once and get people talking about it.
I want to say, like, a lot of people, there's huge addiction problems all over America right now. There's a heroin epidemic going on across.
The opiates is
The opiates are just
my
crazy.
person just died from.
Oh, yeah.
And it was actually, it was the alcohol. He got laid off. Sorry to interrupt
No,
you,
no,
but
no,
I'm
no,
supposed to.
please.
I've been told to be rude and interrupt.
Yes.
So I'm gonna.
It is good.
Part of my story is of this person is he did heroin when he was in his 20s, and he'd been doing pot, but again the gateway drug. I don't agree with the marijuana being a gateway drug because it just doesn't change you chemically like the way heroin can and cocaine or meth or whatever.
It's the gateway to growing marijuana.
Yeah. So, but
Pot
he
is just an herbal supplement.
it is.
Have you guys
It's
not
more like-
seen Reefer Madness? Come on.
Yeah,
it's
I
more,
know,
it's more like
man.
caffeine, I think, in my opinion.
So he, anyways, been doing this for a long time. Then he got into pharmaceuticals because of his partner, this woman who ended up near the end, last few years, before he died, became an invalid, basically because they'd been doing drugs for their whole life. And she had CPOD, she smoked heavily, she just couldn't do much of anything with her body, was in a wheelchair. And he lost his job, he just got laid off. Their company went East Coast, and he spent the last 8 months of his life drinking. And he'd already been doing opiates, which has Tylenol, acetaminophen, and it's bad for your kidneys and liver, etc. So he started drinking 750 milliliters of whiskey bottle, whiskey every day, and it just, I think his whiskey bottle, and killed his liver. His livers are, man, those organs they will last a long frickin' time. They will be the last organ that seems to hold out. And then when the kidneys go, and the heart and the lungs and the vascular system goes, then the liver says, okay, I give up. And that's what happened.
And then we're cleaning it with bleach.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that on your list?
Too late.
Or you can use milk thistle.
No, I won't say.
I did milk thistle once, man, and
Won't
it
say
actually made me puke. I did not like milk thistle at all. We've talked about gateway drugs. Well, I think certain things are gateways to certain things, and there's drugs that have certain feelings that people are addicted to. When you're going into the world of methamphetamine, cocaine, to pick me up, go fast, barbiturate kind of stuff.
Is that like what fentanyl
The
is?
gateway. No, fentanyl is an opiate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fentanyl's like heroin. Yeah.
Uppers.
Uppers, man. The gateway drug is caffeine. And caffeine's not doing it anymore, man. I need to do some meth.
Americans drink a lot of caffeine on average.
I know.
I know people that
I'm
basically
addicted to
inject
caffeine.
Mountain Dew.
So when I was in college, I drank a lot of coffee, and I went to Berkeley at the end of my college career, and you can't walk a block in Berkeley without hitting a coffee shop. So I would pass 2 or 3 on my way to school and back home. So I was constantly drinking coffee, and all of a sudden I started having these weird heart palpitations. So I go to the doctor, and he's like, "How much coffee you drink?" And I'm like, "I don't know, a thing like this, 3 or 4 of them filled in a day."
gallons.
And it's
the normal
8
amounts.
cups, maybe 10. He's like, "Yeah, you need to stop doing that." So I quit for a while, and my heart was cool. But now I drink again, but not that much.
I mean, some of the most addictive substances are legal.
Totally.
So
yeah.
you're
Cigarettes.
talking about caffeine, nicotine,
Yeah.
and now you ask those questions. So if someone has some issues with addiction, you say, "Hey, it might be the alcohol, it might be other what are considered illicit drugs." But then you also ask questions like caffeine and tobacco and etc.
Okay,
and see what's happening.
The coffee thing, I don't agree. I mean, yes, you can say that I'm addicted and I have to drink my cup of coffee, but
Oh, I have a fact to back that up.
okay,
Go ahead.
tell me. No,
okay.
I don't
Little
agree
known
that-
fact.
I
little
also
known
have facts on that.
The International House of Pancakes.
Yes.
Somehow
AKA IHOP.
did really well. Yeah, IHOP. Somehow they did really well when they already had, there was already Denny's, there was already 100 other places like IHOP. How did IHOP do so well? They put things in their food, in their coffee.
Really?
That's how they started, just like
Cocaine.
Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola had cocaine and that's how Coca-Cola became so big. Because first they had cocaine in it.
recipe.
By the time they got kind
Is that
of
what they
busted,
do with the
then had
mac and
to take it out.
cheese too, man?
Okay, so IHOP, it was so good that there were jokes about people late at night or early in the morning there chopping up the pancakes and snorting them.
Nice.
Okay.
Snorting the
That
pancakes.
is weird.
But also think about substance use. If it has a physical effect on your body, then it is addictive. So what happens to people who don't have coffee? They have headaches. They have
Right.
body issues
Guilty,
in their
right.
body.
Sluggish.
So it tells you that it has impacted your body in some way. With caffeine, you can come off of it somehow.
Yeah.
If you do a couple days of you not drinking
I
it.
mean,
but,
if you think
but
about
takes
it,
time.
sugar is one of the most powerful
Addictions.
things you can become
we
addicted
put
to.
so much sugar in
Ca-
our bodies.
and-
nowadays
Okay, I
as
think a
compared to-
line needs to be drawn.
and salt is another one that you can also become addicted to. So I'm going to posit that, saying that they're illicit and illicit is just ridiculous. I don't see any reasonable, rational, logical reason to make a differentiation between different chemicals and what they do to us. The fact that people have made them illegal has been mostly over racist ideas. That's the reality.
Like
The whole
marijuana.
reason why marijuana is illegal is for racist ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, cannabis
that is
isn't
the truth.
nearly as addictive
There's
as alcohol,
absolutely no
tobacco.
reason why caffeine, cigarettes, marijuana, cocaine are treated differently. We need to rethink how we think of them because how we think of them is dumb and has no basis in
Oh, and marijuana was
logic
also-
or reality.
Marijuana was also made illegal because the cotton industry was afraid.
Yeah.
Very
absolutely.
afraid because it's like,
Hemp-
wait, you can
hemp-
make clothing out of this stuff?
Hemp can do everything cotton can do, but better.
If you're saying everything can be addictive, then addiction isn't an
But
issue.
that is a truth.
Okay, then we
statement.
shouldn't-
People
yes.
can be addicted to anything.
Okay,
people
then-
can be
then-
addicted to chocolate. People can be addicted to
Okay,
sex.
so
People
there
can be
are people
addicted to
who are,
gambling.
People can be
But
addicted
where-
to really
people with,
weird things,
massive-
like
Yeah.
eating
Sorry.
non-food products.
Yes, you can be addicted
it's
to
called
eating
pica.
paper.
People who have masochistic tendencies are addicted to pain.
Yeah,
They love getting hurt.
yeah.
Usually in a sexual way, but still.
I think the proper understanding of
Dean's our expert on sadomasochism.
we know who to ask when
Don't
we
worry,
need
I'll
the
pinch you later.
details.
I could tell his baby face.
The right way to think about addiction is that the thing, whatever it is, be it a chemical, be it an action, be it a whatever it is, has a certain response in the addict's brain, and
Right.
it fulfills a need in
But
the
what
addict's
do
brain.
you? So if I stop sugar and I get a headache, that's an addiction. If I stop, I mean, come on, where are we? What
Well, I
is
think
the
it's-
medical? What is the
it's understanding the
physiological-
physiological piece
The
of
headache
it.
you're getting is a withdrawal.
Right.
So
It's
it
a
is
withdrawal
an addiction.
symptom.
Your
It just so
body's
happens that
reacting.
caffeine is a lot easier to deal with
But so is
than
not
heroin.
drinking water.
But it's similar to like a alcoholic
Oh, no, if
getting,
you quit drinking water,
getting
you'll
like
die.
DT.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
The ultimate
You gotta-
withdrawal symptom.
But an alcoholic will like get DTs and they'll be trembling, and so
Yeah, that to me is the physiological.
Go ahead. But if I think about a person who uses substances such as, let's say, caffeine, if I don't get it day after day, and I'm so used to having my 10 gallons of, my man over here, that's going to be something that's going to physiologically affect my body.
Yep.
I also like that you brought up the racial piece because that's the whole symptom.
Is it because you're black?
Maybe, but it's because of the sentencing piece, like how they treated cocaine versus
That's right.
crack.
That's right.
It's the same drug,
Yeah.
but yet we decided to change up how we
That's
sentence
right.
people.
That's
around
right.
it.
Just as one segment of the population got treated like 20 times worse than anybody else for the exact same drug, just I think because of their skin color.
And
Well, see,
isn't the reason that marijuana is commonly referred to here as marijuana rather than cannabis is because
because, like-
the government wanted
Blame Latinos and
exactly
Latinas.
they
Yeah.
wanted to build the perception that it was this weird foreign drug.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
war on drugs was basically the war on brown people and black people.
And I also blame part of the whole
But the word
problem
marijuana-
on doctors. I think a lot of doctors overprescribe pain medications.
Well, that's the
And-
difference. What's the
No,
difference?
they were
between-
getting paid extra to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They're in bed with the pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
You can give a truckload full of pills, but yet you can't have an issue with using
was-
other
That's
things.
right.
So-
That's
Truckload
right.
full of pills. There was one pharmacy in this little town of Vermont that had a population of like 3,000 people. That pharmacy was used to spread the Oxycontins to other pharmacies, and they checked it out. And whoever they is, I heard this on a story on the radio. They were getting enough OxyContin pills in this one little pharmacy in this one little town to kill everybody who lived there like 100 times over.
I heard that story.
Yeah, it's an important subject because doctors get away with murder, literally in some cases, because people everywhere are addicted to prescription drugs.
That's right. There's prescriptions from Dr. Pepper just going crazy, killing
23
people
flavors.
left and right.
God damn it, Dr. Pepper.
Just bring them all down, man. They're bringing them all down. And I think that they're getting, all right, every other country in the world has figured out that probably making profits off of health is not a good idea. They've taken the whole profit motive out. They've discovered that, people still care about health and they'll still work on it without the profit motive. And we're the only country that does it this way, and we all suffer for it.
Well, that's just our economy. We have to keep making money to keep our economy afloat.
The economies of the rest of the world have not collapsed, and neither will ours. If we take the money motive out of health, the economy will in fact do better because we'll have better health results as a result.
There are lots of ways to make money.
More healthy people everywhere because the profit motive that goes into health just injures humans. And I don't know about you all, but being a human, I want the best outcomes for everybody, which means pull the profit motive out.
Because if you don't, then when people like us or other people that used to be in the list game, when we start eating people, we want our people to be pure.
That's right.
We don't want them to be full of
We don't want food
fentanyl and
poisoning.
stuff.
We're gonna have gypsies and ambulances going out and getting these really healthy people, bringing them back so we can eat them.
But isn't a gypsy in an ambulance like throwing some kind of a scam themselves?
Well,
They prefer Romani, guys.
they're getting food out of the deal.
So this fentanyl you said was an opiate. I thought it was, what is fen-phen then? Wasn't that like
You got me there. Fen-phen is not
is it-
fentanyl.
okay.
No,
That was
fen
where
is
you
like a
lose-
drug, is a weight loss.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
This is funny.
fentanyl, for instance.
I've heard of Vicodin. I've heard
Take heroin, okay,
Okay.
and you shoot up heroin and you get your thing.
Right.
Fentanyl is they really wanted to deal with. I can't remember where it first came from, but it was dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. And now I know this just because I have a brother-in-law that came back from Iraq with a gnarly injury and stuff, and they have a patch like the cigarette patch that you
Okay.
slap on your arm, and it gives it to you very slowly, but it's like a 10th or 100th of a dose of fentanyl
Is that called the
is
tattoo?
more than a dose of heroin.
They're also using it
It's
for
gnarly.
it's also used for sleep off label. So that's what actually Michael Jackson died from. And
Right.
and
Is that the
Prince has it in
fentanyl
the system
tattoo
as
you're
well.
talking about?
Well, a
Is that
fentanyl
what that-
tattoo is
what
what
is-
they're going to start doing when everybody just is like, hey,
Music.
this is, it's already a fad, right? There's already people doing fentanyl just to get high. There's people that sell heroin that are adding fentanyl to the heroin. That's becoming a real problem because people are overdosing more, which is going back to economy, costing us a bunch of money. Yeah, that would be more like a designer addiction of the future is
Well, is that
people will
just-
go and get a tattoo that there's fentanyl in the ink.
I thought that was the patch itself. It's not.
Yeah. Well, you can say that too. That's up to you.
I brought this up before, but I'm going to bring it up again. One of the main things about addiction is it's being illegal causes it to be worse, and that if you
It's
go to
not
some
a
place,
crime, it's a sickness.
it's not exactly. We're dealing with a mental illness.
Tell me about
as
Portugal,
if it's a
Rod,
crime.
baby. Tell me about Portugal.
If you look to Portugal, back in 2000, in Portugal, they decriminalized everything. And if you look at the results, the number of people who are shooting themselves up has dropped in half. The number of people who have died from any drug has dropped to zero. People don't die
They made
anymore in
everything
Portugal.
legal. Do what you want, and everybody stop doing
The
drugs.
number of children doing illegal drugs has dropped in half. The number of people doing drugs in general has dropped. And every single metric has become positive. And they took all the money that they were putting into incarceration, they put it into clinics, and they put it into education. And now they have a healthy, happy people who don't die from overdose.
Portugal has a president, right?
Yes, and before
I'm trying to
this,
think like who's the leader of
Right,
Portugal.
right.
Go ahead.
prior to 2000, they had an epidemic that is very similar to ours, where people were dying at very much the same rates as we have them dying from heroin overdose. So if you want to know what the solution is to the entire problem, it is take the whole idiocy of treating mental illness as a crime rather than as a mental illness.
Yeah, isn't it illegal to commit suicide?
Yes.
Like,
here.
depends on where
That
you
makes
are.
a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Depends on where you are.
You'll be punished with the death penalty.
I believe
Although
it
in
always is.
Futurama, they have the suicide booth
Oh,
where
yeah.
you go in and you put in your 50 cents and you're done.
Totally.
Can't wait till we
Because
have
it's
those.
the future.
But actually, it's also related to studies about alcohol in Europe. Why the use of alcohol in Europe is actually a family decision, and there's a lot less issues with kids getting drunk, and because
Yeah.
you don't have to wait till you're 21 to drink, and then you making poor choices. You've been exposed to alcohol
Yep.
in a healthy manner.
Even on
through
a lighter
family.
level, France does not have as many crazy drug problems and stuff. And that's because if you're raising your kid and you want to let your kid drink when they're 4 years old, you can. If you want to smoke pot, you can.
Well, yeah.
You can do what you want in France. You
Well,
know?
I think the thing that the point of it is, and I think this is what's important. It's not just the de-illegalizing, the making it legal, the
Delegalizing.
drugs.
I like that.
Delegalizing,
Decriminalizing.
decriminalizing the drugs. It's that now the community, we're now thinking about it. Everything's legal. Now you have to look at what you're about to take. And people talk about it more. It's not just this little like elephant in the room.
Pulls it out of the darkness.
Right, and it's not
Into
it's
the
not
light.
like a
It's not
freaking
scandalous.
like don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
It's illegal. But
Yeah.
now it's like out in the open, and now you talk with your kids saying, "Hey, is this good to do?"
Yeah, education is really important.
Yeah, interestingly enough, like similar things, like when they decriminalized and legalized marijuana in Colorado, a lot of the people who were against it were saying, "Oh, all these horrible things are going to happen. The schools are going to become rampant with it. It's just going to be terrible for our communities. There's going to be crime everywhere." La da 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 da. Well, it's been like 5 years, and lo and behold, children are doing marijuana less. There is less marijuana problems. Every single metric that they said was going to be a thing, none of it turned out to be a thing, and they've got billions of dollars in surplus that there's now going into schools and into the communities. So, gosh.
I like that, right?
Simple solutions to simple problems.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the old way of doing it is stupid. Maybe we need to do it a different way.
Okay, so if we're
Don't
talking,
be ridiculous.
I know.
We've always done it.
I
We
talk
can't do
crazy
it
all
any
the
other
time.
way.
I'm a crazy talker.
okay, so
over
so
here.
that's drugs. Now, what about the other addictive things that are legal?
I was about to go there. I was going to say, okay, let's forget about economy and that kind of drug stuff and that kind of addiction for a minute. I'm going to go back to something Dean brought up, the collection of the Pokemon. This is an addiction that I have, not the Pokemon particular, but the more fun and fun-y addictions. I'm an avid collector. I will collect anything I happen to get into for the moment. And it has become a huge part of my life. Ask my wife. She has had to make a rule for me over the last couple years. I am not allowed to buy another guitar unless I sell a guitar. Because she didn't even care about the money. It was just, we do not have room in this apartment for another guitar. It's just, there's things piling up.
There was going to be a murder in this house.
And so, and then I
A
beat
murder
her
in the barn.
I beat her on that one. I stopped buying guitars and I started buying mandolins and ukuleles.
Loophole.
You tricky bastard.
And then she said, "Okay, now the rule changes to instrument. any musical instrument.
Do instruments
You
of
have
torture
to
count?
get rid of something that takes the space of that." Anyway, there are all these funny addictions that everybody has, and even before that, as per the Pokemon Magic the Gathering.
Oh god.
Oh my God!
I have a friend.
Were those
who's
guys
still
the
addicted to
smartest
Magic.
people on the planet, or what?
Metro Comics is busy right now.
Yeah, they are.
I got a theory.
I don't know enough about this stuff. I got to hear this.
I got a theory about why it is that our culture is susceptible to all these things, and why it is maybe other cultures may not be. I lived in Mexico for a little while, Monterrey, Mexico, for work, and I got the chance to meet some natives called
Fraggles. Hyacinth.
Huicholi. The Huicholi Indians in Mexico. And they're very short people. They're like maybe 5 feet tall,
I
4 foot
know these
8.
people.
And they make these bead things that are artistically wonderful. And they're just a great people. And one of the things about the Huicholis is that they are really different from other cultures in terms of like their shamans could be women. And they honor women. They are super empowered.
Wow, imagine that.
by they take peyote before going out on the hunt, and they're just a really different kind of people. Well, they don't have mental illness in their culture like we do in ours, right? And so what's different between their culture and our culture? In their culture, everybody who's a Huichol knows where their clothes came from, knows where their food came from. They know everybody in their tribe, and there's a genuine love love in that community. It like drives that fucking community, right? You look at our community and it's like go out and make money and screw over the next guy,
Right.
and there's no real like
Nurturing.
there's none of the same things I see in the Huicholi community expressed in our community. And so what we lack there is a certain belongingness and a certain sense of love as a genuine value in our community. And maybe that drives addiction. And
Well,
that-
what you're talking about is the difference between individualistic and collectivistic cultures.
yeah, and I think we need more collectivism.
And in America, and that's a Western thought, is that it's very individualized.
Yeah.
Get yours.
Yeah.
American dream. All about
Totally.
you. Step on the next person to get where you got to go.
I think it makes for addiction and illness. I mean, that might be something that some people like,
Whereas
but
if
I
we
think
were
it's
all addicted to love.
if we were more loving people, we would have
all
more
be
health.
addicted.
Well, again,
to
I think it
love.
goes back to what you were saying about narcissism. I think in our culture, because we become so alienated
Yeah,
as
it
young,
breeds narcissism.
right? It breeds this self-concern that we
Yeah.
become like totally overwhelmed with ourselves.
Yeah.
We have no family to kind of
And
pull
you
us
stop
out of that.
caring about other people,
Yeah, right.
and once you stop caring about other people, then all hope
stop
is
caring
lost.
about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, all hope is lost.
Pokemon.
Yeah,
And you're right. It also continues that link, like you're talking about, between physical health and mental health. I don't feel good about myself. I don't have close relationships. Therefore, my physical, where do I turn? I turn to other things that will feed that need for me personally.
Yep.
And that's not the healthy way because that actually doesn't assist or help me in any way going forward.
I totally agree 100%. And I think our social media kind of shows a lot of that. You know, people get all into their selfies and
Yeah, I think our society is really self-indulgent above all else.
Yeah.
Decadent, perhaps.
yeah, and the social media just feeds that. It just gives people the narcissistic
There's something
feedback
people are
that they
addicted
want.
to, social media.
Definitely.
I've got I've got family members that when I look at their feed, all it is just pictures of themselves everywhere all the time, and all it is just them complaining about people complaining about them. And
Facebook has been known to make actually people a little bit depressed because all people post on Facebook is, their happiest moments and stuff. And then people look at these and they go, why am I not having these
Right.
great times all the times like this person? But no, they're like, this person is having the same amount of bad things going on in their life. It's that they're not
just
going to post about
cherry-picking.
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff.
There's really nothing genuine about communicating via social media. Like it's not a real genuine
very
human
superficial.
interaction.
It's the old school keeping up with the Joneses, but now you actually are looking at it in a way like, oh, why is not my life like yours?
Exactly.
And you're comparing your life, and everyone's life obviously is different.
There's something that said that on Facebook, your life is either amazing or absolutely horrible. It can't be anything in between.
True black and white thinking right there. Very good.
Non sequitur, but I was totally addicted to sour Skittles as a boy.
Nice.
Is that on your list?
No. I get a bluff point.
All right.
I get a bluff point.
That's called a bluff point.
I might be handing
Told you I
a
was
bluff
gonna
point,
lose.
but is the Huicholi on your list?
It is not on my list.
Another bluff point.
That's two bluff
The witch
points.
holy. Anyway, as I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted,
Rudely.
Because you're
now I'm
voice.
gonna bluff.
I would eat sour Skittles to the point of rainbow vomiting. It was serious, man.
How old are
I
you,
would
7?
snort the little sour crystals they put on them.
Taste the
Okay,
rainbow.
maybe not that.
Barf the rainbow.
I do want to see you barf the rainbow. It's all waxy. So then you can build stuff out of it like Play-Doh.
The Skittlepox is real.
I like that commercial.
I think it's gross.
I think it's awesome. It's because it's so gross.
Things growing out of my skin is like one of my number one fears, and so that is.
And she eats it, though. That's
You're
what
just not that old yet, Dean.
I mean, unnatural.
You prepared
things
for
like
my world.
mushrooms or.
I mean, I can totally relate to the whole video game addiction because I am the kind of guy who can start a game, and if I don't do something about it, I could be there until the sun comes up.
Boom.
Ditto.
Same.
And so I make rules for myself 2-hour maximums, and I stick to them. Like, once that 2 hour hits, well, I'm having a fantastic time, but it doesn't matter. I got a life. I got to go.
It's one of the reasons I got married. I have someone who will stop me.
Yeah.
Who will just walk up to the machine and hit the off button.
Yeah.
For me,
You are done.
for me, the real problem is RPGs like Fallout or Dragon Age or Mass Effect or Skyrim. All of those,
Yeah.
like they just
South Park.
I have finished Skyrim twice because I'll finish with one character and then make another character.
Right? Yes.
And go all all the way through the end, and I don't stop until I get 100 on all my skills. You know, I mean, it's great.
It's intense because it makes you delve yourself into this new world, and it makes you feel like this character because, you know, first of all, is in first person, so you're seeing through their eyes, which I love in most games, and you're deciding what they're saying. So it's like this character is you if you were in that world.
Right.
Which is a lot better than the world you're in now because there's magic, there's
I had the
fantasy.
same thing as a kid before video games with reading. I used to read fantasy books, and I would just get lost in them. And I felt like that was a little bit of an addiction.
There's a good one, man. Books. And you can go into a book and just be totally absorbed.
Yeah, because it
when I was
pulls
a
you out
kid,
of...
there was a guy named Tom Swift in these books. And I could not get enough Tom Swift. And then I met Xanth. Oh, no.
Did you read the Tom Swift's
Yes, I read it. No, I don't remember it.
Thank you, that was enough. So, does anyone want to do ayahuasca? DMT?
Oh, we have a whole episode about that.
Oh, well,
I got to draw a picture of that map, man. That's going to go on the Patreon page.
So this guy, Gabor Mate, this guy who believes it's the nurturing thing that makes the Western world so addictive in general, he is like the ayahuasca is the spirit drug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is
so,
Gabor Mate related to yerba mate?
It may be. I don't know. He's kind of he's a little bit of a
alternative
downer
to
looking though.
caffeine.
I know.
I'm familiar with the much more intense 5-MeO DMT, which is a much shorter, like 5 to 10 minute, but way more intense. Go to the other place and
See, I need
meet
it
other
gradual.
beings. And
Talk to God.
essentially, yeah.
God, I see. I need a longer lasting one if it were to do that. I am so detailed oriented. I like
The ayahuasca,
the
ayahuasca is a preferred method. This came to me, and I was ready for it at the time.
Oh, and did you discover something new about yourself that you've held
that
on
I was
to?
ready for it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Did you
Okay.
talk to fairies?
Oh, come on. This is serious.
People see fairies on DMT.
People do have conversations or have experiences with things.
The blue dancing woman.
All right.
Yeah, people do talk to non-existent beings under the influence
He's
of these
embarrassed.
things.
He did see one.
My experience was much more. I was flying over a weirdly geographic scape that was moving. I mean, I was like flying at a high speed, and there was quite a few things happened during the duration of that experience. And I could say that it was a genuine oneness with the universe, with love being the predominant factor in that experience. It was like a very, I am one with this universe. This universe is part of me. I am 100% enmeshed with this universe, and that it is guided and built with love. And visually, it was much less important than that feeling that I was having. I felt afterwards.
So the no hallucinations.
There were a ton of them, but they were not, I felt, the important thing that I was getting out of the experience.
Yeah, that I felt before in my college years with mushrooms.
Sure.
And it was like, I remember one time summer taking mushrooms. It was this one summer where I'd taken them, and these wild animals would walk up arbitrarily to us, to me and a couple of other people are taking it. And I couldn't believe it. They're wild animals. It was a skunk, but it was still
You had the right energy.
it was like amazing.
You were
It was
radiating
like,
the right energy,
holy
so they
cow.
weren't
It's like,
weren't
it's
afraid
wild.
of you. They were like,
Actually,
these guys seem safe.
Being a skunk is more
totally been
impressive
there.
in my eyes because skunks are usually very fearful of people that they will just spray you.
They're not people at all.
Of people.
No, I totally
that
believe in
reminder.
that because there was one time I was on mushrooms and I had an encounter with a huge owl.
Oh my God.
And his head was bigger than my
I've
head.
seen
Did you
I've
ask
seen
it how many
gigantic ones,
licks
yeah.
it takes to
I
get
did
to the
not.
center of a Tootsie Pop?
No, we basically stood there and stared at each other, and I was climbing up rocks, and his nest was in the rocks. So I'm holding on to basically the side of a cliff. When this owl comes out and sits on this rocks and looks at me, and I'm looking, and his claws are bigger than my hands. I'm like, this dude could fuck me up right now and make me fall really far down onto a bunch of rocks and stuff. But I still couldn't help it because I'm on shrooms and I'm having this great trip and I'm climbing and stuff. And he let me kind of pet him. I touched this owl.
Holy-
It's like
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
It was really cool.
I mean, that's the thing about.
I got addicted to that really quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about some drugs. When they open you up that way to the world, it is obviously mind-blowing, but it's like it makes you realize you're like connected to the world, and yet in our lives now, we are so disconnected. And if we were connected all the time, it would just be,
So much better.
we wouldn't be killing
Yep.
the shit we kill.
Yep.
I mean, it's just,
It would be better. And that's the thing is that when you take things like any hallucinogen, what happens is, and really specifically hallucinogens and why you can't be addicted to hallucinogens
Yeah,
the
why?
same way you can be to like a cocaine or
interesting.
an alcohol is because hallucinogens, they tend to break down your schemas. And so what happens is through your life, you build these schemas that define what you see, right, in some way to you. And so you define that that's a glass, that's a table, this is a floor, and it goes on from there, right? Everything gets categorized and put into its place. And you don't realize that you do this to everything, even though it may not be reality. Like what you've categorized a thing at may not be that. And you're not going to change it. You're at least not easily. And what happens is that when you take a hallucinogen, it takes those schemas and crushes them all of them. And you end up with a clean slate. And you can actually see reality for what it is for maybe the first time. Now, you don't need psychedelics in order to do this. You can do this spiritually. You can do this through meditation. You can go through a whole Zen thing. You can go through Buddhist training. You can go through a number of different philosophies and Eastern philosophies, all of which will lead to a similar place. In fact, even just plain ass religions do the same thing. They all tend towards lowering of the ego and raising of your own.
All right, let me take you back to the 80s. But then what happens when you mix these wonderful hallucinogenics with the addictive, crazy stuff?
oh, okay.
Not even drugs, like the super hallucinogens, and you just did a lot of acid and stuff. And you happen to be addicted to smoking pot. Well, okay, not addicted to smoking pot. You like smoking pot, and you're addicted to collecting Beanie Babies.
I swear they'll be worth a lot in the future.
Is this a personal story or?
That's when you hear that story in the paper where this guy got caught with his Beanie Babies all cut up and he was smoking the stuffing.
It is white normally.
Yeah.
Smoking the stuffing, yes he was.
He wanted to gain the power of the Beanie Babies.
With the basement and the treehouse.
So is the hallucinatory relationship, is that how you break down? Is that where the breakdown of the schema is? Or do you think, why is it hallucinations? Why is hallucinations associated with that?
I can only say that for whatever reason, psilocybin does this, LSD does this.
But is it, the hallucinations, are the definition
I
is you
can't
see
say,
things, right?
I can't say
Right,
that.
I would put it like this. I would say the hallucinations and the hallucinatory drugs are the label that we've put on it, but it may not be exactly correct. Because if you're not totally ready for that experience, you will probably have a little more hallucinations than realizations.
Right.
I'm able to control my vision,
Yeah,
my
it's
illusions.
like if you did
It's an illusion.
ayahuasca, there's whole parts of that where you're just gonna sweat and puke and do diarrhea. Okay,
Right.
well the thing with the mushrooms and the acid is you're gonna have those moments where you watch trees walk and you watch people's faces melt off of their skulls. It's fun.
It's also important to note, I think, that science doesn't yet fully understand hallucinogenic drugs. They haven't really been studied because I feel the stigma that's been placed on them.
Right.
They're starting to.
Yeah,
They're using MDMA,
CIIS.
aka ecstasy, for treating PTSD patients and dudes that been coming back from Iraq, and it's working.
Yeah, the past
so
5 years, they've been starting to get it back, and the psychiatrists are starting to want to pull that stuff
So
back.
They're
in.
starting to use psilocybin to fight depression.
Yeah, in the
which I've done for 20 years.
In
30
the
years.
UK, they had a study where they were doing folks who were terminally ill on cancer and gave them one psilocybin experience and found that 80% afterwards had no fear of death and had a much brighter outlook on their future.
And
That's the way
it's
to go.
even theorized because they had so much of a brighter outlook on their future, it helped fight the cancer.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are practical uses for these drugs that we haven't discovered yet
Yeah.
that will become apparent to
Well,
us
you know,
over time.
the CIA is very familiar with these drugs because they tested
they've
the
been
hell out of them in the 50s and
experimenting
60s.
on-
Project
for decades.
UK MK Ultra.
Oh, MK Ultra, yeah.
All
And
these
so,
covert
and that is
operations.
another big reason why they are illegal because they view them as like, you know, people are going to change the government if they use these. And that's probably true.
Mind control through LSD. That's an interesting concept.
They tried it, they didn't work.
But yeah, Shutter Island was inspired by MK Ultra.
Oh,
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
what's MK Ultra?
Yeah,
Okay, go
it's
in
when the CIA tried to use LSD as a mind control device.
Okay.
It didn't work for obvious reasons.
Right.
But they tried.
Yeah.
So they get a gold star for that.
Because it's not going to control
A
your
for
mind.
effort.
The people. Well, actually, it depends on the people. This is another theory I have. Picture your LSD and your DMT or whatever as rocket fuel to put in the space shuttle to go to Mars or whatnot. There are people with rocket brains and there are people with Volkswagen brains. And if you put rocket fuel in a Volkswagen, boom, it can work.
Well
Gonna
put.
explode.
It's true. It's true. I've seen it.
Those are the guys that are walking up and down State Street talking to themselves.
Seen it 1,000 times.
It ain't pretty.
So are you saying that this is a weaker mind, or is it they got too much?
Not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, some folks just aren't wired very well to begin with, and you know they're right
There's
on
a lot of
the
factors.
edge.
There's doing it too much too often, and then like, let's say you are talking about LSD. Do you know who made that LSD? Do you know what they actually put in it?
Oh, I see.
What else did you put into
Yeah,
your
it could
body and
be
your
bath
brain?
salts or 25i or a lot of really dangerous
The
chemicals
baby-
are
the baby
sold as
laxative.
I'm sure the
LSD
CIA
or
didn't go
Molly.
to some random guy owning a block with as going, hey, so give me your LSD.
No,
and
they-
then-
They would
kind of did.
Did they?
They made it easy for people to learn how to make it, but then they left it up to them.
So they just walked to. They just like
they
bought
didn't
it
make
from.
it themselves.
Huh. Good to know.
So yes, they went to Ralph's.
There's actually a great show. I don't know if you guys ever. I guess it's a newish channel called Vice, and there's a show on Vice called Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. And if you have not
I
checked
can
out
imagine what this is about.
Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, I strongly recommend it. I have watched every episode, and it is right on.
There's no like
Whoa.
rap opera.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Does Lin-Manuel like rapper?
No. It's this guy Hamilton who is very interested in drugs and their effects on humans and their effects on culture and humanity, and so he goes around checking out different drugs. And literally, like every drug you can think of, he goes and figures out.
Today
like,
I'm
the
going to
history
smoke
of.
these Beanie Babies.
You can watch MDMA get made from scratch. You can watch LSD get made from scratch.
So he's like an Anthony Bourdain, but of drugs.
Pretty much.
So it's online college.
Love it.
It's way better.
Because I want to make LSD.
It's way better than online college.
All right, let's go. I'm starting a business next week, Rod.
Unfortunately, a lot of the ingredients are very hard to get. They're controlled substances, so
And if you do get them, a little like flare goes off in the universe, and the government's
you need to know somebody on
Yeah,
the
you're on a
inside.
watch
there,
list.
boy.
You need to know somebody on the inside who can fudge some numbers for you and get you some barrels.
You just have to become a doctor, right?
That's right.
Doctor, medical
Speaking of,
doctor.
Just 5 years.
Come on, you guys, you young dudes.
got
Get your.
I'll go to medical school just so I
right.
can make LSD in
feed your
25
friends.
years.
I don't have the patience for that.
Nobody
On the
does.
subject of LSD, anybody else hear about that one guy who tried to dump literal tons of LSD, although I think it was actually 25i, into the water supply of LA?
Ooh,
Oh, I
I
have
heard
heard
a
about
long
this.
time ago.
How long ago was
That was a
This
long
was
time ago.
No, this was like a couple months ago. Maybe.
Urban legend.
Yeah.
It's the urban
No,
legend
no,
that keeps
this happened.
going on. Oh, it
He's
does?
right.
No, this guy was
months ago.
arrested. Yeah, you can look it up.
No, he got popped.
Well, how did he not get away with it? What an
Well,
idiot.
he got caught.
How did he get
used
caught
to
for
work
that?
with the.
So easy.
Well, he used to work with the.
security guards that were doing their job.
Yeah.
Dude.
Just go to the security
doing
guard.
here? Where's your
Is there a
badge?
good place to dump this LSD? Or
No, it's like,
So you're saying not here?
okay,
It's
go
not
on,
as
go on.
though LA's water supply is unwatched. Unsurveilled.
Sure tastes like it.
But just imagine if he had succeeded.
I would have flocked to LA personally.
So wait, if we start,
That's so tough because I happen to know that first filter that the water goes through before the really good filters, it's the leftovers from smoked Beanie Babies.
Hey, is that on your list?
Very absorbent. Now,
so it sounds like when they do the whole like potty to mouth, whatever it is, the toilet to
that
sink,
made a good picture.
the toilet to sink, whatever.
Your mind out of the
Hand, foot,
gutter.
mouth disease. What are we talking about?
What are you doing later,
It goes from
Kathy?
the toilet. It goes from the toilet, and then it goes to your drinking glass. You just like dump your LSD down the toilet, and there you go. Santa Barbara is filled with LSD, unless of course there are filters.
Every place in the country and every big city in the world, what you just said is happening. It's
Right.
like when you drink water, even more so in a lot of other countries than here, but in a lot of cities here, you're drinking all leftovers
Estrogen-based.
of the birth control
Yes.
pills. And
Isn't that why men are getting
drug that
boobies?
Anybody's been taking, you're drinking some of that.
It's like everyone who flushes prescription meds.
That's
You're
why they
going
tell
to
you
have
not to
that.
do it.
Yeah.
They say
There's a water supply.
don't flush your meds.
Speaking of flushing,
turn
so
them
you
in.
guys, how did my poo taste today?
Yummy.
And even the mimics. I mean, there's a lot of things that mimic estrogen. So I'm sorry, you men.
Progesterone, estrogen. We can go down that road if we want to talk about it.
I think
We're all about this.
I made my wife the man in this.
I know. I think there's a lot more estrogen. That's the problem. Because what happened to the men in the world? No, I'm glad that they're becoming feminized.
Hear that, guys? They're trying to take us over.
That guy from Raising Arizona is in every town.
Oh yeah. He's a little too
The
much.
guy on the motorcycle
Yeah.
who cuts off the stuffed rabbit's
Oh,
head as
yes.
he rides by.
The lone biker of the apocalypse.
Oh my God.
That's a great movie.
All right, guys, let's go through and add up some points. I'm going to go around from my left, and I didn't introduce everybody yet. We have a new member, in case you guys didn't notice, so we're going to get there in a minute. Rod Diaz, what do you got for me, man?
Prescriptions from Dr. Pepper.
Oh, I can't.
Prescriptions
I was
from Dr.
wondering
Pepper.
why you invoked
kind of-
Dr. Pepper
yeah.
specifically.
And then you repeated it too. I
Yeah,
think
I
you
did.
had it. I think you knew.
Social media screenshots.
the whole time.
Social media screenshots.
Social media screenshots.
Yeah, we discussed social media.
Oh, this is right. Yes, we did.
Gypsies with an ambulance.
I also wondered why you said gypsies.
Come on, you guys.
I need to start going with my instincts here.
on my list.
Think
blew
about
it.
my brain when you hear somebody say something.
I thought it was a joke that I didn't understand. So
I even after
I'm
the
waiting.
last couple
I'm waiting.
episodes, I purposely tried to make some of the stuff crazier.
You guys are good.
Right.
So
I
you would
know.
call each other, and you guys were so good at sneaking them in. I was like, oh my god, I gotta
Damn.
get even crazier next episode. But
Some of these on my list, there was no way.
So I have
you
two
should've
more
tried
that I technically tried to throw in, but I don't know if it really counts because it was a really quick throw in. Like,
I heard him.
Murder in the Red Barn. I
Murder in the Red Barn. That sounds like a song.
What he was talking about is
Well, what's the other half?
I just threw it. and
Doesn't
then-
count.
I don't think it counts. That's what I'm thinking. And the other one was making smoke signals, which I also threw in, but it never really caught on.
wait,
And-
when?
I also heard you say pharmacy du jour,
Yes,
but we didn't go anywhere with
but
that.
we never went anywhere with that. So
I think I'm gonna make the three of those add up to 1 point.
All right.
Rod either has 6 or 7 points. Jonathan,
I had truckloads of pills.
truckloads of pills. I heard that one.
I had the burning bush
The burning
Yes.
bush.
and Japanese anime.
Japanese anime. What did you have that you didn't use?
Fireflies and glowworms.
Oh, come on, man. We're talking about hallucinating. and shit.
Yeah, I
You
could have
didn't
get that.
pull
You're right. I
out?
could have pulled that one up. Sharing knitting needles. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Come on.
that was one I couldn't do.
Come on. Heroin,
funny.
fentanyl,
Like-
sharing needles,
Yeah, sharing
needles.
knitting needles.
Oh, I
And
wish I
then
would've had that one.
the last one was pooping balloons.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's another heroin one.
I know.
Yeah, you
I was
gotta
thought about
poop
the
out
sack,
those
yeah, that
balloons.
they had, but I just couldn't slide it in
That's
because I had a pooping
disappointed
balloon
in you,
in.
We were
I know.
talking
You
about
got
people
3
who
points.
eat non-food products.
Right.
You know, if
I-
you eat balloons, then
I was-
necessarily you poop balloons.
I know. I was able to say pika, but not pooping balloons.
All right.
Okay.
Kathy, what do you got?
I think I got 2, so I'm okay with that.
It's your first time. Oh, by the way, everybody, this is Kathy Lieberman. I may once in a while call her Kat. She is one of our new members of the crew.
Fentanyl tattoos.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
Very
thank you. Hallucinatory relationships, which is a stupid way I said it, but we were talking about hallucinating, and I said, well, so then the hallucinatory relationship between,
No, that's how you do it.
was
no.
bullshit
You-
statement.
You know, when I wrote it, that I meant like hallucinatory relationships, like this is my pretend girlfriend or whatever, right? But you twisted it another way. That the more ingenious you are, the better.
It wasn't
No,
ingenious.
that's good.
It was just throwing
What'd you have
bad
that you didn't
grammar.
use? What'd you have that you didn't use?
CIA meth labs.
Oh, come on!
No, I couldn't get there.
We talked about Project MK Ultra.
Well, that's why when we were talking about it, I was like, I don't know.
You just
I don't even know
you
what that
had
was.
it. Okay, it's all right. You'll
all
get
right.
it. It's been your first time.
Horny toads, which I guess I could have brought in the licking of horny toads. What is that about?
Read it again.
Horny. Oh, trolls. What's
Horny trolls.
What's a horny troll?
Have you seen the movie Trolls?
No.
Okay,
Trolls
do
2?
mushrooms and see the movie Trolls.
Okay.
And you will
By
be my
next
best
week.
friend for the rest
Okay,
of your life.
okay.
All right.
Trolls 2 is superior, I must
Okay.
say.
Oh, I didn't know there was one.
Oh yeah, Trolls 2. It's widely
already
regarded
out.
as one of the worst movies ever made.
No.
Alongside The Room.
Those dudes were on acid when they made.
The
Oh,
one
you're
with-
talking about the '80s Trolls. I'm talking about the Trolls movie that like just came out. Like,
Oh,
no,
year.
Blake, the movie you're talking about, Trolls 2, doesn't even have a first Trolls.
Oh, it does.
Right.
It does.
No, it doesn't. It's just Trolls
That's
2.
the one with the puppets, and like the one comes out of the toilet after it just ate out some dude's butthole.
No, seriously, there is.
Okay, and then the Twinkie disease.
The Twinkie disease. How come I did not get these on my? Oh. I'm gonna stop passing a hat, man.
No,
I'm
no.
gonna assign
I'm the
them.
newbie. I'm the
Okay,
newbie, man.
all right,
you
newbie.
gotta.
You're-
Sorry.
Twinkie
And
disease.
I'm
That
sure you're
was
gonna get me
brilliant.
on this one. The Cookie Monster on PCP.
And the Cookie Monster on
Ah.
PCP. We even brought up PCP.
Oh my God.
While I was
don't-
writing this list, I was like, I am so brilliant. I was just so proud of myself. Oh.
And you handed it over to
All right,
just
man, we'll get it.
a shriveled mind.
What do you got, Dean?
in the jungles of Vietnam, thanks to Pokemon collectors,
I knew that was one.
owning the block,
Owning the block.
Clash of Clans,
Clash of Clans, you got that in there really good.
and masochistic.
Come on, dude,
Masochistic?
say it.
Yes,
Come on,
masochistic.
say it.
I had to go over that in my head like multiple times before I
Keep Dean
mentioned
away
it.
from them lime sodas.
Masochistic.
Masochistic
that word.
tendencies.
I said it right during the list, so that's when it counts.
Maxinistic?
Masochistic.
Bring it on, Blake.
Alrighty, I had a bluff point. I got rainbow vomit.
Oh, good.
Rainbow vomit.
It wasn't the Skittles.
You get some
Damn it.
knuckles
Right.
for that, dude.
The Skittles was the
When I wrote
build
that
up
one
to
down,
it.
I was
Good
like,
job.
how's this one gonna go in? Oh, well, I'm keeping it. Rainbow vomit.
I got injecting Mountain Dew. I mentioned talking to God briefly when we were discussing TMT. I don't know if this one counts because I kind of threw it in, but when we were discussing MK Ultra, I threw in covert operations.
Yeah, that's like one of Rod's half points, so let's see how that goes.
And yeah, that's it. The ones I didn't use, eat my AIDS.
Oh, come on! Come on!
Where would you use that?
I know, I
LS
exclamation.
Come on, that's where like sharing knitting needles came in, and you were supposed to put them together. It's like the sharing needles and getting AIDS and eating
And it
my
was it
AIDS.
AIDS or AIDS?
I did not spell it
AIDS.
correctly. I spelled it AIDS, so it's that kind of AIDS. Yeah,
Band-Aids.
It's not the disease.
You could have just gotten mad at Rod
Eat
and
my
said,
AIDS
"Eat my
could be-
AIDS."
It's a throat lozenge.
It could be a Bill Clinton
I
reference,
strongly
so you could
considered,
have done something with that.
I strongly considered just saying out of nowhere, eat my AIDS.
That's an updated Bart Simpson.
Yeah, a grittier Bart Simpson.
The gritty reboot.
Eat my AIDS, Blake.
Yeah, and I didn't use Keystone Cops in disguise.
All right, you guys ready to hear mine? I got one bluff point, which was smoking the stuffing. And then I got the Illuminati theory. Nobody called me on that.
Oh, I thought that the Illuminati might have been.
The big tobacco Christmas party. I tried cleaning with bleach, but Rod got me on that one, so that didn't give me a point. Snorting pancakes at the IHOP. The rum-flavored binky. And at the very beginning, what I started it all with, calling the aliens.
It's not fair when you use it in your introductory, you know.
So it gives me 6, but Rod had 6 if we don't count all 3 of his. So once again, the great Rod Diaz brings home a win on the list game. All right,
That's
folks.
true.
Next week, get ready for another one of those fun ones where various celebrities get together to do something weird.
There be a murder mystery?
Not that one. Oh. Well, I don't tell you if there's going to be a murder mystery. That's the secret.
Fair
always.
enough.
Yes, that's always a surprise. With that, I say this has been the List Game brought to you by
Stanko Vision!
If you don't know that, listen to episode number 2. And see you next week.
Please subscribe to the podcast, rate us, and leave a review.